Live from Global British Columbia, the Saturday Morning News.
Do you like or not like being autistic?
I like the good things and I don't like the bad things.
Okay, that was an easy question, wasn't it?
Yes or no? You like being autistic?
In some ways, I adore it. I cherish it. It's part of who I am. I wouldn't change a thing.
I guess I have a love-hate relationship with it.
It depends, because sometimes it can be okay, but sometimes it can become very hard.
And I have different feelings. I like being autistic because...
Really?
Yes, I do. Because why should I feel bad about something I can't really change? I might as well look at the good things about it.
I don't like being autistic.
Why?
Because it's hard for me to have changes and all the other stuff.
I cry, I scream, I wish to God I wasn't different and I didn't have to struggle with everything.
A scene from Normal People Scare Me, a film by Keri who's a filmmaker and mother to two sons, Taylor and Jace, one of whom has autism. Taylor was diagnosed with autism, and Taylor was the brains behind that film.
Yes, he titled it, and he decided to create it. And at first I told him he couldn't do it, because you just don't do that in Hollywood when you're 15 years old. And then I realized, hey, they said he may never walk or talk, and look how we showed them. And I said, we'll figure it out. And the next thing you know, we met Joey Travolta, and Normal People Scare Me was created.
Okay, by way of background, Keri is in town right now from Hollywood.
Yes.
Yes, Keri's in town right now for a major autism conference that's wrapping up. Its final day is today, and you'll be speaking at that conference later this morning.
Yes, at 11 o'clock.
But that film you and Taylor made just a few years ago. And what did Taylor say to you when he first broached this idea with you?
Well, he had wanted, I put him in community service because he needed to learn empathy and connectivity. And that Christmas, he said, Mom, this year I want to pay for the gifts myself. And I said, well, you could clean the swimming pool. And he said, like a teenager might, I don't think so.
Is that really what he did?
That's really what he did, only a little louder. And he said, no, I want to make videos and sell them. And I told him why he couldn't do that, because you just don't do that at 15, you know, make a film. And then I realized, it flashed across my head, I was told he may never walk or talk, and we sure did show them. So I said, you know, we can do it, we'll figure it out. And a week later, we met Joey Travolta, and he agreed to produce the film. And a year later, Normal People Scare Me began its tour around the world.
Joey Travolta, the brother of John?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Whose son...
Yes,
Jet.
it's all a little bit of an interesting story. Jet was alive at that time, and Joey just had a passion for disabilities and special needs. And so he agreed to help Taylor in a student film festival he was sponsoring for his daughter's senior high school year.
Okay.
And so he took on the project, and a year later, and having my son, a young man with autism, interview over 65 people with autism, that was really interesting and very hard sometimes, but I think the result speaks for itself. Well,
we just saw a few of those people interviewed in that clip. I don't know if Taylor had known them previously or not, but what I was telling you during the commercial break, what struck me about your film is how individual each of these
very much
teenagers or young adults were. And we tend to think, I think those of us who don't have a lot of experience with autism, that there's just one characterization, but clearly they're all individuals.
Autism is, to me, like a rainbow of colors. And there are many, many colors on that rainbow. And they merge together, and they are on a continuum or a spectrum, if you will. But red is not blue, and blue is not green, and green is not yellow. They're very distinct. They're very individual. And yet, at the end of the day, they are all colors.
Right.
And that's how I describe autism, because the art of autism is how I work in my particular way is emerging autism through the arts.
Right, and that's how you basically got Taylor started when he was just a baby.
Paint on his fingertips at 6 months old, when he couldn't look at me or make eye contact, and I couldn't hold him because he would scream. And something guided me, because there was no internet then. There was no diagnosis for so-called high-functioning autism or Asperger's at all. He would not be diagnosed until 6. So I intuited somehow, as the artist in me, that that's what I needed to bond with my son, who clearly wasn't bonding with me. So from 6 months old, paint on his fingertips, and today we call that sensory integration. And on through drama and putting microphones in his hand and taking pictures of him with cereal boxes so he would learn how to smile.
Now, you also just published this book.
I actually didn't
did you
publish
this
it.
book? No.
I'm actually the godmother. I introduced the writer of the book with the publisher, Autism Today, and Debbie Hosseini. I called them up 3 years ago individually and said, you guys are going to make this book together.
Okay.
Because that's what they do. I just love the arts, but I'm not, you know, a book publisher.
So all of these pieces in this book was created by someone with autism.
There are, I believe it's 54 artists in that book from all over the world, many of whom I do know, and I introduced to the publisher and the writer of the book. But this is, I'm the godmother, and this is the baby that just came off the press, and here in Vancouver, wrapping up today's conference, it's the book launch. I mean, it's literally the first time anyone can purchase this incredible work.
Okay, your film, also an incredible work, one of 3 films that you've done so far, and I know you're working on another one. Let's look at another clip, and this one has to do with the difference between children with autism and adults with autism. And what is the difference?
Well, my goodness, early intervention is critical. So in the beginning years, the children were trying to figure them out and trying to get them through schools and IEPs and processing and just being in the world. As adults, hopefully we've done great intervention, and now we can see them just like any other typical person emerging into society and finding their way through the hills, the valleys, and the bumps.
All right, let's take a look at this clip.
It's so difficult to watch your child grow up. When they're younger, they're sheltered and there's some protection. And the world is more forgiving when you're a child that's young with autism and your behavior is different, bizarre, aberrant, strange. Some would call it weird. But as your child gets older, you watch them walk out into the world that's not as forgiving when they're older.
Just before we let you go, how old is Taylor now?
He's 22 years old, and he's living in an independent living situation facilitated by the ARC of Southern California. And he is, I'm going to cry now, he's doing great, and he really works hard at that.
Well, good for you and good for him. And I can't wait to see your next film. Thank you so much for coming in, Keri.
Thank you so much for having me.
You can find out more about Keri's films at normalfilms.com. And you can go see her speak at the Autism Vancouver Biennial Congress happening today. It's actually wrapping up. Today's the last day. Vancouver Convention Center East. She's speaking later this morning. You can find out more on autismvancouver.com. It's a great piece. You should definitely check it out. You can YouTube it as well.